Welcome back, team. I know it's been a while. I'm sure it's been in your calendar, much as the next series, or the second part of the next series, I should say, of Ozark on the 29th of April. And, lateral, we've had a few texts, two, I think, saying, where have you been? Well, I've been in Melbourne doing my master's, which has been super cool and a real privilege. So I'm going to pass on some lessons from the course and a few life lessons for you. So let's kick it off with those few life lessons first. The first one, if you're playing Royal Melbourne with your mate, you're in a match play situation on the 17th, always make sure that you put your golf bag, and the bigger, the better. Those ones the pros use would be the most ideal. Put it right behind the pin when you're playing out of the bunker on the 17th at Royal Melbourne. And if you are liable, like I am, to thin your bunker shots, there's always a chance that you'll hit the bag and it'll bounce back for a makeable putt to keep you in the match. That's all I'm going to divulge about that situation. And the second one would be, if you are foolish enough to, peddle your wares on the low stakes poker tables at the Crown Casino, don't play ace-3 as a starting hand. You'll come up against a battery of wily, patient grifters who'll take you for every penny you've got. Personally, I never play ace-3, but I know someone who does. It's still licking their wounds from that to this day. On to more serious matters, and that's why I know you're all here. I just wanted to take you guys through some of the learnings of my paper I did over at Monash on negotiation mediation. So I'm back doing my master's after a lot of years on the academic sidelines, with new relish and up the front of the class rather than the back, like the glory days. Actually, no, I'm still down the back. I don't like that whole thing of the students being able to watch you, scratch your chin and look completely stumped at most of what the lecturer is saying. So I've retained my place firmly at the back of the class, but nonetheless, my interest was piqued by this master's program. Something I resolved to do as a goal during the first lockdown. I thought I want to do something a little bit different. Excuse to get over and hang out in a pretty cool city, play some golf, play some poker, and generally just ferret around the awesome South Bank region. And just cruise up a couple of K up to the awesome Monash, the new Monash building for master students next to the Supreme Court. Real cool part of the city. Beautiful, sunny, lots of nice lattes. Great sights, and just a really cool experience. So I strongly recommend it to any weathered 40-year-old professional out there who thinks, is this all I've got, coming to the same office every day? Not to detract it all from a little setup we got here in the CBD. It's real cool, but at the same time, it just gives you a fresh perspective and upskilling. And plus, I can put it down as my lawyer's CPD, which we have to do, continuing professional development. A lot more fun than sitting there doing 1-hour lectures on estate law. So I'm just going to take you to a little. I was practicing beforehand, but I'm not very technologically savvy. I'm just going to take you to a little share screen situation here. Okay, bear with me. Okay, so the paper I did, which was super, super cool, was called Negotiation and Mediation. It was a 6-day intensive course, and it looked at the whole concept of interest-based or option-based negotiation. Now, when we traditionally think of a negotiation, we just think of, our positions. That's the sort of Spartan way to think about it. And we may think a little bit of what each other wants, but we usually won't go at it with much empathy or understanding from what the other side wants. And without getting overly academic, because it's not the right forum for it, just put up this really, really cool little 7-element cheat sheet, so to speak, from a guy called Sean Whelan, who was our lecturer, who has a company as well called CMA Consulting. You'll see the little logo up there. I'll give Sean a plug. He's over in Melbourne, but he's a super cool dude. Was very academic, but also very real world, taught us really well. And we spent, 30 hours in the last 2 weeks working through, first of all, defining what these things are, and then how this conceptual framework might help you in your own negotiations. So all I'm going to do today is just run through the definition of what each of these elements are, and then give you a quick little, off the top of my head, example of how you might start to use something like this to help yourself. If you want this this PDF, editable PDF, just message me afterwards on the various channels that we're doing this podcast on, and I'll just shoot it through to you, no problems at all. So, what are our interests? Our interests are what we broadly want out of the transaction. So, if we are hypothetically a tenant negotiating a new deed of lease, obviously we want to rent the space, and we want to pay as little money as possible for that privilege. We may, however, have broader interests. We may want a may want certain amenities with the premises. We may want a car park. We may want a fairer deal or a more equitable deal in terms of our share of the outgoings, and we may want other associated perks that come with the building. We may want to be able to sublease because we can keep our costs down by having someone who has a good synthesis with our business that we can trade referrals off. So we may want that as well. So that broadly is our options. The landlord's interests, obviously they want secure tenant. They want security in terms of knowing they're going to get paid. So they may want some sort of bank bond or something like this, or personal guarantee. And they obviously want as much rent as they can within reason. They don't want a soured relationship with the tenant because they're overcharging. They want you to pay your fair share of the outgoings. And they want security of tenure. So that, broadly speaking, would be the interest in that hypothetical situation. What are all the possible? Okay, I'll get to options afterwards. Alternative, well, for the tenant, you could lease another building. Obviously, it doesn't involve them at all. Their alternative is they don't lease it to you; they just lease it to somebody, a better tenant, or they sell the building. Standards. What are the objective standards? Well, comparable rents in the area, CPI, the level of bank guarantee, level of security in the current climate would be relevant. For example, at the moment, tenants are getting away with lesser security requirements because it's hard to, for landlords to rent space. They may get away with a limited PG where they perhaps in the past wouldn't, or little to no bank guarantee. Guys, this is real sparse. If we were acting in a situation, we would be, and you would hope, much more thorough than this. Is just to give you a bit of an idea about perhaps a novel or slightly more advanced way of looking at a negotiation. Okay, what are all the possible options? Well, you've got the rent. Obviously, that's if both parties are willing to lease the premises to each other, then all the options. First and foremost would come down to price, to the rent. But as Sean was, really keen to stress throughout the whole 30 hours that we were with him, is that don't just get positional straight away on price. There's lots of other ways that both the landlord and tenant can add value beyond price. Like I talked about, the ability to sublease, other amenities around the building, the fact that perhaps that building is in a position geographically which is something that not easily replicable by the tenant in terms of other premises, and from the tenant's perspective, there's landlord's perspective as well. If it's a really key cornerstone tenant with a recognizable brand or a really strong financial position or family behind them, they may be willing to include that as one of as a reason why that they would look at a deal that didn't just focus on raw numbers. So, look at it as broadly as possible, and by focusing on your key interests, each party focusing on their key interests, I should say, you'll find that those options, once those interests are understood better, will come to mind a lot easier once each party understands more where the other's coming from. All good. Okay. What else we got? Relationship. I mean, obviously, that's something you would think it's patently obvious to you, but possibly it's not. Possibly there's other things about each other that you would want to understand how that person got to their interests. And, commitments is more of a check off thing, like at what point, can you do a deal if you're a representative of an organization or a family trust or something like that? They're all good things to stake out pretty early in the process. Communication, that tends to get more built into how you operate, as without thinking, okay, today I'll communicate like this or that. It's more of a style thing that you develop, and good negotiators over the years will build that up in a way that it's very easy. The good quote that Sean gave us was that, someone was talking about a real master negotiator, and when they came to the table, they said, when we got there, he was of my opinion, and when I left, and when we left, I was of his. So that was the sort of very smooth, classy way that someone can bring up interest and have a real good discussion and get out and communicate all of the different things going on and the real nature of the relationship, and then work to an option or from there, as opposed to just starting real positionally and not thinking at all about the other side's interest and therefore options available. So I hope, guys, that was somewhat useful. I feel a little bit out of practice at the moment with the old podcasting, but I'm sure I'll get back on the horse pretty quickly, and I'm excited to keep bringing you little tidbits from the study I'm doing, and I hope you all have a spectacular day out there, even though the weather is relatively shite. Cheers, and look forward to hearing from you all with any questions.